I'm Jeff Brancato. I work in the Economic Development Office at the UMass System Office, so I'm not part of the Amherst campus, but I'm part of the entire System Office, which is in Boston and Shrewsbury. My main role with respect to this project is working with John to help support him on a number of activities related to how this project communicates its message to folks both in Holyoke and to folks at the state, how we address some of the economic development opportunities, and how we basically tell our story around what it is we're trying to accomplish. The rest of my job at UMass focuses on helping the campuses improve their research programs, helping make connections between all of our campuses and industry within Massachusetts, and also helping to tell the story about what goes on in Massachusetts with respect to our innovation economy and the role that UMass plays in it. I work with Jack Wilson, the president of UMass, on a couple national panels. The other story that he likes to tell, which I thought you were going to tell, John, was about 2 years ago, after the discussion with President Hockfield about her dreams. Actually, almost 2 years ago to the day today, there was a meeting in Boston, a snowy morning, snowstorm like not unlike the one that we recently had. And the morning of the meeting, and this was a meeting to discuss the HPCC project and what everybody hoped to get out of it. The morning of the meeting, they weren't sure whether or not people were going to come in. Everything was closed. A bunch of calls were made around, are we still having the meeting? Are we still having the meeting? Everybody decided they were having the meeting. President Wilson puts a snowblower away in Westboro, gets in his car, comes in. The folks from MIT are already there. President Wilson says to the provost at MIT, I'm really surprised. I wasn't sure that we were actually going to have this meeting. And the provost at MIT looks at him and said, President Hockfield told me that if I didn't come to the meeting, I shouldn't bother coming back to campus. So there's been a lot of commitment to this project at the very highest levels, and that's something that we really benefited from. I'd also actually like to tell you that some people have known John and have been introduced to him as the interim executive director of the Massachusetts Green High Performing Computing Center. I will tell you and update that and say that John is the permanent director of the Massachusetts Green High Performing Computing Center. Over the past 6 months, we have not succeeded in scaring him off. He got a close-up look at. Well, even though it's 5 big universities that don't always play together in the sandbox very well. But
I actually thought it was the other way around, that I didn't scare them off.
But John has decided to sign on for the long haul, which we're definitely appreciative of, because he brings an awful lot to the project, and it's been a real pleasure working with him. So.
Hi, I'm Bill Lennon. I work for the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative. That's in Westboro, Massachusetts. I live in Shelburne Falls. I'm a very proud graduate of UMass Amherst. I was a University Without Walls student at UMass Amherst, and I'm very proud of that. I had the prime rib tonight, can recommend that.
Brass tacks.
So our corporation is one of those quasi-public corporations you read out in the Herald and the Globe. We're the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative, created by the legislature 30 years ago, based in Westboro. And when the governor pledged his commitment to the Green High Performance Computing Center and the $25 million investment in the Green High Performance Computing Center, that money flows through our corporation. And so one of our responsibilities is to be in a contractual relationship with John and Jeff and the universities for the governor's pledge. So that's a contractual relationship that gets negotiated. The second way that we connect to this project is with Kathy and Jim Lavelle and other people. We are sponsoring the Innovation District Task Force, which you may or may not have heard of, innovateholyoke.com. All the minutes, the membership, all the resources associated with that task force are on that site, and the next meeting of the task force is the 9th of February at 1:30 in Transportation. Yeah. So the third way we connect, besides that economic development task force, the third way we connect is that I'm working with a group of people, primarily small business people from Holyoke, on the design of an event that would happen annually that would try to piggyback on what John and Jeff are doing and the universities are doing to try to sort of, do a bank shot and create sort of interest in Holyoke in the northeastern United States and nationally as a place to come and locate your business or start your business. So that's 3 ways that we connect with this project. And we work with Brendan and Zach and a number of other, Kip and other people, John, a number of other people in terms of designing that event. So I'm very pleased to be here tonight. I know I'm the last person between your questions and our answers. So let me stop there.
Perfect. So thank you all very much. So now we're going to have questions, and we'll do this for a little while. We've got at least 20 minutes to do it. Let's keep them brief and snappy, and I will cut you off if I think you're too long-winded. Alan.
He will. Are you also going to use the water drop from the first to the second canal to generate electricity?
Well, there is a generator on the site, as you probably know, the Skinner station. But that electricity goes kind of back into HG&E's grid, and it just comes back around to us through a circuitous path. So we're not going to use it directly.
I mean, there should be several opportunities between Appleton and Cabot.
There's probably 2 thoughts on that. One is the penstocks that are there. There's really only one that's really usable at this point, and our roughly speaking, we'll be consuming maybe 10, 12, 14 megawatts of electricity when we get going. Megawatts. A penstock can generate a quarter of a megawatt. So we need more. We need the dam. We need the dam. Thank you very much. Right.
I got you. No.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, at one point in time, I had heard that you were going to use the river to cool the center. Is that still in the plan? And if so, what about the heat coming off of the exhaust? And is there any possibility for heat district in the city of Holyoke in order to recycle that heat?
Let's see, a few questions there, and I think your second part answered the first part, which is using the canal water is something we looked at pretty hard. It is complicated because of the discharge of the water, and ultimately, at least at this point, we decided that we will not do that, partly because the economics actually weren't as attractive as we thought they were going to be, and partly because there are some environmental challenges to making that happen. The second question about exporting heat, we will export some heat from the back end of the building into the front end, so that'll help us heat our offices. We haven't yet found kind of a good idea about what to do with the rest of the water. It comes out at temperatures that are, just if you're thinking about ideas, right, not radiator quality temperature, so you can't actually heat a house with it, but it's warm. It's kind of warm water. We haven't quite figured out what to do with it yet, other than we have a plan for, we have air conditioners in the basement and so forth to cool it off.
Is the building going to be an LED building, like a high efficiency LED?
Yes. So we'll get LEED certification. There's several levels, probably somewhere in the LEED silver range.
What's the total cost?
Oh goodness, it depends on who you're trying to impress. So I think if you read different newspaper articles, you'll see a number that's somewhere around $95 million. So not a small sum. That's less of that. A portion of that will go to constructing the building. There's another portion that goes to designing it, another portion that goes to just kind of operating between now and the end of 2012. Occasionally you'll see a larger number, which is in the kind of mid-hundreds, and that counts the amount of money that the universities will spend over time on computers that go into the building. So there's an additional amount of money that we'll spend to fill it up with toys.
Is that just building, or does it include computing?
That was I'm sometimes I don't speak loud enough. So that second portion is the computers. So kind of above and beyond the 95 million or so that we're going to spend getting the building kind of in place and done.
James?
Well, my question kind of goes to all of you. In a state that has so much education, higher education, that kind of tends to hemorrhage our well-educated students. They come here and they learn and they leave. What can we all be doing along with you guys to keep these people here and start, building a stronger workforce in Holyoke and in the area at large?
I'll let these guys answer, other than have more good parties like this one.
Buy another drink.
Well, you want to start on the policy issue?
So, in a practical sense, so I used to work for the Dean of Engineering at UMass Amherst.
Yep.
And we would watch the graduates leave, right? And we try to understand why they were leaving. And largely they were leaving to the south and the west, because while they might get a higher salary here, their perceived cost of living was lower in the south and the west. Right? So, to some extent, you're fighting that tide, which actually, New England's actually been pretty successful in the last few years. UMass puts out benchmarks, which is a publication that helps us understand the economy in the region. And if you track that, you'll see that young people actually, the tide's turning. Young people are actually staying here. Now, it's not a huge tide, but it's turning. So, but that's a 10-year trend that's turning around. Part of the reason why we're designing this event, this annual event with this working group of people from Holyoke, is actually to capture the imagination of the 100,000 people who go to school between Hartford and Greenfield. So does everybody understand that there's 100,000 people going to school between Hartford and Greenfield, the knowledge corridor? Right? So part of what we have to convince, not Jeff, but we have to convince the people in Cambridge and Boston is that, and then the 128 and 495, we have to convince them that there's a ready labor pool. Because I think the last point I'll make is that in technology jobs, and I started working in the computer industry when I was 20 in Boston. In technology jobs, people move to a place not because they get a job, but because they can see the second, the third, and the fourth job beyond the first job, because that's how they increase their salary in the technology jobs. And one of the things that's been difficult for the Pioneer Valley is that people in Boston and Cambridge couldn't see the second, the third, and the fourth job. So we have to get our emerging businesses here in Holyoke and the Pioneer Valley, keep them, retain them, keep them growing, and we have to get some businesses that are interested in the Green High Performance Computing Center to locate jobs out here and start building some sort of critical mass or momentum towards critical mass.
Absolutely.
Do you want to add something to that?
I'd add that looking at it from the UMass perspective, we have 5 campuses all around the state. They're all very different. They live in different communities, they live in different ecosystems, and they have different sets of relationships with civic organizations, with industry, with businesses. Massachusetts isn't a big state, but it is a diverse state. And I think one of the challenges, and this goes back to what Bill said, is we have to figure out, what makes sense in each region. What's the story? What are we selling? How do we tell the story about why this is a good place to do business? And the story for Holyoke and Western Mass is going to be different than the story for Boston and Cambridge. It's going to be different than the story for the Merrimack Valley. It's going to be different than the story for the South Coast. And so I think part of the issue is just getting our arms around the fact that there are unique assets here, and we really need to figure out how to maximize them.
So